everybody. Welcome to In This Corner of the Podcast, a Buck 65. Boxing's biggest names, boxing's biggest stories, boxing's biggest fights. Got a lot of that to cover. Also, greatest memories and moments, and we do it all with, there he is, Lee Groves. He's a CompuBox counter. He's a historian. He's an author. He's a writer. He's a hell of a nice guy and a busy guy because, boy, are we coming off a really busy weekend, this past weekend, and we just are going to get right into it. I'll let you take it away. You wrote the script. My computer won't print. My printer won't print it out. So I'll just let you be the guide track. So what are we doing?
Well, we're in the first segment. We're going to be talking mostly about what happened on Amazon Prime last Saturday. Sebastian Fundora defending his championship against Tszyu. And, of course, the main event with the 46-year-old wonder, Manny Pacquiao, fighting Mario Barrios to a draw. Now, we're going to talk first about Fundora and Tszyu, which was a rematch. You were at ringside. You were actually inside the arena. And what were your impressions on Fundora's rather sudden TKO victory over Tszyu?
Well, anybody sitting within the proximity of Smitty with my big mouth, I in between rounds, before they stopped it, or right at the end of the round, which was Tszyu's, so he had some of his better moments, I said that they're going to stop it. I just saw Harvey Doc moving in and looking closely, and I think that Tszyu gave it his all. That last round, he gave everything that he had, and it just wasn't enough. And he was getting hit with so many different types of shots, over the top, underneath. Sebastian really has quite the arsenal these days. So I expected the stoppage when it was. What I will say is that Fundora looked good. I liked that he was fighting at more of an angle. He didn't get stationary too much and squared up too much. He did in the final round of the fight a little bit too much, and that's why I was taking a lot of shots. The great thing about him, two things. He's really improving, and there's also things I see that he really needs to improve upon. Mm-hmm. And you would expect that he'll end up doing that and become a complete fighter, or as complete as he can be. But I'm seeing a lot of improvement in him. And as for Tszyu, I'll toss it to you, and then we can talk about the future of these guys.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think that Fundora is getting better and better with every fight. And one of the big reasons for that is because he has found that happy medium between maximizing his height and reach and still being an exciting fighter. That's how he beat Tszyu the first time around. He did it even better against Cordell Booker in March, and he was better still last Saturday in the rematch. And here's some stats to back this up. First, Fundora has thrown more jabs than power shots in each of his last 4 fights. A big criticism of him was that he spent too much time up close and throwing power shots and exposing his chin. Well, he's put more distance between himself and his opponents, and that jab has been a big help in that regard. Second, in those 4 fights, the jab made up 57% of his total output, which is well above the division average of 42%. And another is that he has averaged 6 landed jabs per round, which is markedly above the division average of 4.4. But despite the change in style, he's still scoring knockdowns. He scored a knockdown against Booker, and he added another one in the first round Saturday night. And finally, his relentlessness was such that Tszyu preferred to remain on his stool rather than take more of the punishment. And that might have been the most impressive aspect of all, because Tszyu's a pretty proud guy. He's a tough guy, and he knows what happens to fighters when they choose to stay on the stool, especially in a world title fight. However, there are also criticisms about Fundora. He's, as you said, he still gets hit too much with flush power shots. That was particularly true in the round right before the fight was stopped. And we know what happened in the Brian Mendoza fight. He got knocked out with a clean power shot to the jaw. But I think he can look to David Benavidez for inspiration because there was a time also in his career where this unusually tall 168-pound fighter was hit far too much. But in the last several years, he's put in the hard work to become a better defender. And while he still gets hit with a solid shot every so often, over the long haul, his numbers have been pretty darn good. I think Sebastian is capable of doing the same thing.
Yeah. Well, and common sense would be there are tall guys or guys that are rangy that can fight on the inside. When I think about, for example, like a Riddick Bowe was a pretty good inside fighter, and
Yeah.
there's others that we could name. But when you're a rangy guy like a Hearns, like a Fundora, you get your real pop off leverage.
Mhm.
So common sense would be fight from the outside. Your power, you're going to be safer and more defensively responsible from the outside. You can control everything off of your jab, the most important punch in boxing, and your power shots are going to be harder because you can get the torque. That doesn't mean that you can't come inside and throw, short uppercuts and things like that, but common sense would be everything for Fundora would be better from a distance. And I think he's realizing that. And if he continues to do that, he will be a real presence. As for Tszyu, I think he has to do some real soul searching right now.
Mhm.
He showed a lot of heart, but there's something making me wonder, is his heart still in it? He showed a lot of heart, but I don't know and if your heart's not in the game, you got to get the hell out of the game because it's not a game, it's boxing. So, and as for Fundora, my quick take would be keep improving and maybe think right now about moving up to the middleweight division, a division that doesn't have killers, and he
Mhm.
might be more comfortable there and he won't have to deplete himself. So that might be the move for him is to go up to a buck 60.
There are a couple of other options. If he decides to stay at 154, he could fight IBF champion Bakram Murtazaliev, who just before the fight called Fundora, quote, a dumbass because he chose to, instead of fighting him for three belts, he chose to vacate the WBO title and fight Tszyu again for one belt. Murtazaliev's a tough guy, and he also just obliterated Tszyu when they fought. Another option is Sergey Boachuk, who is now Fundora's mandatory challenger. They were originally supposed to fight each other on the Tim Tszyu Keith Thurman card, but after Thurman was injured, Fundora took the fight, fought Tszyu, and became a unified champion. And if those two guys fight, then that'll close that particular circle. Uh, I was a little surprised. Unlike you, I was a little surprised when Tszyu decided to remain on the stool, considering his history and everything. But I think he might have blunted some of the criticism by being just so honest in the post-fight interview. He gave Fundora his props. He did it in a funny way, but it is what it is. And you and I have always stressed that fighters should always know when to say when so that they don't take punishment and have a better quality of life down the line. And it looks like that's what Tszyu did here. And we wish him well, whatever he decides to do.
So
You know,
from there, we go to the main event.
we go to the main event. And as we mentioned, they went to a draw. That was a very surprising result given the pre fight thoughts of everybody. 46-year-old guy, 4 years out of the ring, going up against a reigning world champion. History's not good in that regard. But Pacquiao, some people were saying that the draw decision was a robbery.
No,
Uh,
no, no.
do you think it's a robbery, or do you think it was just a close fight where people
Yeah.
could have
First
different
off, first
feelings?
off, I had Pacquiao edging it, but I'm going to disclaimer that by saying that I had great seats, but I was surrounded, as was almost anywhere you'd sit, by zealous uh, Pacquiao partisan there, yelling and screaming and wanting me to tell them how I scored every second of the fight, which was confusing. I was far enough back that I couldn't hear the shots like you could if you're sitting at ringside scoring a fight.
Right.
And I may have not given Barrios enough credit because I don't feel like he deserved much credit the way he was fighting. And that gets to what I told the only way I thought that he would not stop Manny is if he went in there with just way too much respect.
Yes.
And he went in there and fought like he had way too much respect. Not only during the fight, but even before each round, they were doing the touch and glove crap, which I hate. You do that. That's crap. You do it after the fight, touch and glove. I mean, you're touching gloves, and then you're trying to take somebody's head off 2 seconds later. The mindset has to be, and I feel for Barrios because he probably idolized. He was 30 years old again, 16 years the junior. He probably idolizes Manny, and then
Yeah.
you got to go in there, and it's almost a everything to lose, nothing to gain. If he wins, oh, you should win. He's 50 years old. And if you lose, how do you lose to a 50-year-old guy who just got in the Hall of Fame? He's 46 for those of you
Yes.
nitpicking.
Yeah.
But my point is, he showed him way too much respect throughout the fight. It almost looked like a glorified sparring session from
Mm.
him. Throw the jab, throw the jab. He didn't turn over any right hands. He would throw an occasional one, but there were no left, right, bam, come back with a left hook, nothing. So I think when he goes and looks at it, he's going to be extremely disappointed. I feel for him because I can't even imagine being put in that situation. As for Manny, I'll just sum it up. He did as well as he could. He looked great for a 46-year-old guy. He made a ton of mistakes. He was off balance a lot,
Yeah.
wild a lot, but the guy wasn't making him pay for his mistakes because of what I said. So for Manny, he did what the best he could. The good, the bad, and the ugly of this is that the good and the great is that he didn't get hurt.
Yeah.
Bad is that he either won or he got the draw. I thought he won. It could have gone either way. I have no problems with, 1 or 2 points Barrios, 1 or 2 points Manny, draw. All of that's fine. But then because of that, he's going to fight again. He's going to
Yeah.
fight again. And here we go again. And there's going to, the next guy
Yeah.
is not going to show him all that respect, probably. And then we'll see what we all know is inevitable if he keeps doing this. So all I can say is, everybody knows I really like Manny a lot, and I'm just glad he got hurt. And I hope something happens between now and then. Maybe those calves of his just get so big he can't fight anymore or something, because I don't want to see him fight. And I've said this over and over and over again, but it was an electric atmosphere. I wasn't going to go. I'm glad Samson Lukowicz got me tickets, and I went because I got to see Fundora and I got to see Manny, and maybe it will be Manny's last. I doubt it, but maybe it will be.
I saw it as a fairly close fight. I had it 7-5 for Barrios. I could see it 7-5 the other way. It wasn't a robbery. It wasn't like Julio Cesar Chavez and Pernell Whitaker. It wasn't like Lewis Holyfield won. This was a close fight.
Right.
It was not a robbery. It was just a close fight. As far as who could be next, one option, if he's not going to fight Barrios in a rematch, there is the WBA champion. And because Jaron Ennis has vacated his titles and moved up to 154, the WBA champion is now Rolando Raleigh Romero. And that's a fight that can be sold now if they decide to go that way. I'm with you. I would rather that Manny Pacquiao take the draw that is perceived as a win by a lot of people. Take the win and go. But
Well, the fact that we're even putting Raleigh next to Manny and it's realistic means we need to go to a commercial break so I can clear my head from that. And we'll do that. And then we're going to come back and we got the big guys are coming up
Yes.
next, right?
Very much so. We're going to discuss Oleksandr Usyk and Daniel Dubois too.
All right, we'll do that after you see this. We'll be back.
I got two options. Option one, I can accept defeat. Option two, I can get up. I can get tougher. I can get faster. I can get stronger. And then I go get mine. I made my choice. Have you made yours?
In this corner, the podcast, Lee Groves, we're breaking down what took place over the weekend, and now we go to Wembley Stadium. How many were there for Usyk and Dubois II?
An excess of 90,000.
Unbelievable. Our buddy Double T, Tom Triber, doing a great job of setting the table and then tossing it to Buffer as he would introduce Usyk and Dubois, and I'll let you lead us through this this fight, which I had it right. I had it right, although I was a little off because I thought Usyk would stop him in 10, and doggone it, he cut it to 5.
Yeah, boy, he was extra good that day. You know, I mean, the last couple of weeks I've done tornado warnings, and well, even the best weather forecasters get it wrong every so often, so why should I be different? Zepeda a couple of weeks ago fought exactly the way he should have against Stevenson, but Stevenson rose to the occasion. He stood his ground and he rightfully won on points. And as for Dubois, there were factors favoring him going into the match that I detailed last week. And although Usyk was winning, Dubois did have a few of his good moments. But let's face it, Stevenson and Usyk were the betting favorites for good reason, and they showed why inside the ring. And had I known about that house party that Dubois' parents were throwing shortly before leaving for the arena, I might have changed my mind, because for a fight like this, you've got to have focus. And for him to arrive at the arena 90 minutes before the ring walk, that just didn't give him enough time to settle down and warm up and get himself mentally settled down and prepared properly. And yes, he had his moments, but Usyk was just so much better. You were telling me Shakur Stevenson is a better fighter. Oleksandr Usyk is a better fighter. And in fact, it's incredible that he is performing this well at age 38. It's clear that 38 of today is completely different than 38-year-old fighters who competed when we were growing up, such as Larry Holmes. He was 38 when he fought Mike Tyson, or Muhammad Ali was 38 when he fought Larry Holmes.
Well, and you can
Why
also
are
if you
38
discount, but if you discount the the great amateur career, how many fights does Usyk have right now?
Several hundred.
No, I mean as a pro.
Oh, as a pro, I think he's had 23 or 24.
Right. I mean, those guys back then would have 10 fights in a year sometimes, in a
Yeah.
year. So the wear and tear on those guys from yesteryear, and the fact, the consistency of how often they would fight, the lack of inactivity, and then with everything that's gone into nutrition and sports science and everything, yeah, the guys of today in that regard, because I am always one saying that in every sport, the guys are bigger, stronger, faster, better, except boxing. But with nutrition and fitness and that kind of stuff, yeah, there are things being done, but also the guys today don't fight as much. Therefore, there's not all the wear and tear, which is good, but also typically the inactivity, which I call the high blood pressure, the silent killer, leads to guys not improving. So it's a double-edged sword, but with Usyk, he's a sword on both ends, and an effective one. His lead hand is a thing of beauty. His variations of the jab are a thing of beauty. The way he does it fencing, the way he does it to knock the hand down, or to get you to look one way and he comes over. He's just, I don't have time to explain it all. I just cannot wait. And Egis, Klimas, if you're watching this, two of your guys, Lomachenko and Usyk, they're on my hit list. Those are there's only about 4 or 5 guys I want to do it in rings with, and those are 2 of them, because I think Usyk as a prize fighter, as a technician and a tactician, is as good as anybody that's ever done it. That doesn't mean he's the number 1 guy. I'm not going to fall into this crap of rating him right now. Let him have a few more years, and then I'll rate him. You can do what you want.
Right.
But I will tell you, there's nobody any better. I mean, there as far as all around the skill set, like Roy Jones Jr., a better athlete, probably. A more phenom with the speed and probably, yes. But better technically? No. There's very few guys that I've ever seen that are as good as Usyk technically. I mean, I just, very, very few. And I mean very few.
Well, where do you rank Usyk in the pound for pound race now? Now, as for my list, he jumps ahead of Inoue into the number 1 spot. Inoue's at number 2. I have Bivol number 3, Terrence Crawford number 4, just because of the inactivity. Jesse Bam Rodriguez, who we'll briefly cover in a few minutes, number 5. And then you got Shakur Stevenson, Canelo, Junto Nakatani, Kenshiro Taraji, and Artur Beterbiev. That rounds up my top 10. Where does Usyk stand in your list? Number 1.
And I told you that. I texted you that during the fight, right after the fight. Because Crawford's inactivity, and just what the dude has accomplished. I mean, 2 victories over Fury, and now 2 victories, both stoppages of Dubois, not to mention what he did prior to that, and what he did with AJ. I mean, he's just, and again, what my eyes see, it's hard to see without the glasses on as it used to be, but what I see is just a tremendous blend of athleticism and technique and focus, and just, I mean, he's just splendid. What was the splendid splinter was Ted Williams, I think, in baseball. But this guy just is so damn good. And, what I love about it is he's good. He's great defensively, but he's not overly defensive. Like talking about Shakur is great, but certainly not on the level of Usyk, because Usyk can do just as much offense and defense at the same time, whereas Shakur, has to do the defense and then counter. Usyk blends it all in at once. It's hard for me to explain. It's just like, this, if you have a blender, it's just all this magnificent stuff blended. And when it's with boxing, when you throw in the offense and the defense and the jab and the counters and the parrying and the shoulder movement and the foot movement and the dexterity and the DLT, distance, leverage, and timing, and you put all of that into a blender, and if you want it to come up with the master class, he's the master for me. So I don't know if I can heap any more praise on him than he is right now, the best fighter in the world. And somebody could say, well, he doesn't have as many straight knockouts as Inoue's not even in the same breath. And I know Inoue is phenomenal. He's a Hall of Famer, but he's not as good technically, not even close.
Usyk said during the post-fight interview, I'm 38 years old and I'm just getting started. And according to Frank Warren, his next fight will probably be against his WBO mandatory, Joseph Parker. How do you see that one?
Let's take time. I don't even want to get into it too much. Okay, I'll say this. Definitely a tougher fight than Dubois.
Yeah.
Because Joseph is right now he might not be at his physical peak, but he could be, but he's at his mental peak. Mm-hmm. He's got a lot of confidence, and it seems like he's got his stuff together mentally. And I think he would go in there with such a calm, relaxed attitude that he would do well, and that he will give Usyk some problems until Usyk solves the problems, and then. But it'll definitely be a better fight than Dubois. Dubois that fight went exactly as I expected because I think a lot of people overrated Dubois.
And unfortunately, I was one that overrated his psychological state going into the match. Again, if I'd known about the house party and all that stuff, I probably would have changed my mind. But
When
that
you
it
do
is,
when you
it
when
is
you
what
when
it
you do
is.
weather, all you can do is what the atmospheric conditions show you. And both of those fights, Zepeda and Dubois, there were reasons to think that hey, the conditions might be,
Yeah,
but they weren't, and the
right.
better guys prevailed. It brought out
It
the
did.
best in Shakur, and really, I think it exposed somewhat Dubois. And by the way, Dubois, I've heard all. I was listening to our buddy Ben on there talking to some people about who's chinny and who's not chinny. Dubois
Mhm.
is chinny. AJ's
Yeah.
chinny. They're chinny. When they get hit and they, shake a lot. And that's something that's very difficult to. You really can't improve it. You can improve your defense. That's what you can. But he's gone pretty far by being chinny. So is especially AJ. But that is something that gets him in trouble. And when Dubois gets hit, he kind of crumbles. He folds, and he doesn't show this great ability. It seems like to get up and want to continue. It might be that he's just so rattled that he can't. I don't know.
Right. And people were talking after the fight about Usyk's place in history, and they also brought up the name of Evander Holyfield, who also was an undisputed cruiserweight champion and an undisputed heavyweight champion. And, kind of size up those guys. I mean, what is Smitty's eyes? We're not going to go in depth into it, but just your gut. What does your gut tell you about that kind of a fight?
It would be phenomenal because you got a guy. Usyk has more uh, in his toolbox. He's got more
Mhm.
stuff, but Evander can do everything really good, but he has massive heart, massive heart, and he that would be wow. That's one. These eyes, I'm going to have to take some time and dissect that one and think about it because I think it would be a phenomenal fight. But just off the top of my head, Usyk's a better technician.
Mhm.
Holyfield has the heart. I know it sounds cliche, but the heart of a warrior. That automatically makes it a phenomenal fight. So I probably would lean towards Usyk because of the technical stuff, but you can
Mhm.
never discount Evander Holyfield.
Never, never, never. All you have to do is remember all the talk leading up to the first Tyson fight. He was a 25 to 1 underdog to open. It was 5 to 1 on fight night. They weren't talking about whether he was going to win or lose. They didn't know whether he was going to live or die because of all the heart stuff.
Yeah.
And then what does Evander Holyfield do? He knocks Mike Tyson down in the sixth. He knocks him out in the 11th. And his career gets absolutely new life into it. So
But
that's
if you ask me Usyk and Tyson, I bet you know who I would pick.
Oh, for sure. Yes, I know who you would pick, and it would probably be very easy for the guy you're going to pick to win.
I just think Usyk would just control the entire fight. It just but the Holyfield one, that's a different, and styles make fights. It's not taking anything really away from Mike. That just
Yeah.
is a nightmarish matchup for Mike, in my opinion.
Yeah. And before we go to a break, I do want to briefly touch on Jesse Bam Rodriguez. He scored a 10th round TKO against Fumalela Cafu to become a unified champion. And his next fight is going to be against another title holder in Fernando Rodriguez on the November 22nd Saudi show. I ran some of Cafu's numbers as part of the CompuBox research. I thought he was a quality operator, and in the early rounds, he did well in spots. But as the fight wore on, there was the inevitable separation between a good fighter who holds a belt and a pound for pound quality operator like Bam, who was simply too technically sound, too accurate, too powerful. and he scored the TKO. And I'm looking particularly forward to the Fernando Martinez fight because Martinez is a volume guy. He is aggressive. He will give Bam plenty of opportunities to shine. I think that Bam will win that fight as
What
well.
is the mega fight for Bam, though, in your opinion? Where does all of this lead him to? Because we both really like him, but what's the mega fight?
The mega fight is in a way.
In a way, right?
Yes.
Is that, do you see that happening within a year?
It's possible. Inoue says that he's going to stay at 122 for a while before moving up to 126. Bam will probably return to bantamweight, maybe win a belt there, and then that will set up the fight with Inoue, probably in 2026, maybe early 2027 if Inoue continues to be in the game.
All right, we'll take a break, come back. One final segment in this corner of the podcast, a buck 65. More after this.
I got two options. Option one, I can accept defeat. Option two, I can get up. I can get tougher. I can get faster. I can get stronger. And then I go get mine. I made my choice. Have you made yours?
Back, final segment in this corner, the podcast, a buck 65. You know, folks, if you need an alternative to caps and crowns and bridges and all that stuff, I highly recommend you check out the expert in dental implants, and he is Dr. Nam
Fun.
Very good. Dr. Nam Phan. He is located in Las Vegas and New York and in New Jersey, and he specializes in full mouth cosmetic, veneer crowns, dental implants, extractions, and oh my, sedation. He really does a great job, and I've said this before, nobody just runs down to get implants, but with all the different things when you age with it's not just your teeth or the caps or the crowns start to go, the bone structure even starts to go, and he is able to do sinus lifts and bone grafts so that you get the jaw and everything ready, and then you properly install, if that's the way to put it, the implants. We'll get him on and let him explain it. I don't know if I'm explaining it the way it should be, but I know he does a great job. And since he has all of these locations, I just always give out his number, 702-637-9168, 702-637-9168, Dr. Nam Phan. All right, what do we got? Final segment.
Oh yeah, we're gonna do some previews of a couple of cards that are pretty prominent. And the first one is the final boxing card or final card of the Top Rank ESPN partnership, which goes all the way back to 1979. When you look at the card, it does seem fitting that the main event of the final Top Rank show on ESPN will be headlined by Xander Zayas because viewers have seen him literally grow up right before their eyes. And now his story has reached the point where he's fighting for a vacant world title in Madison Square Garden, his home away from home. And the story continues with Bruce Shushu Carrington, one of another top-ranked prized prospect and contender. He's fighting for an interim world title in the co-main event. And Emiliano Vargas, one of the sons of a beloved former champion, and Fernando Vargas, he's going to kick off the show. And, the ideal ending would be going off the air, Xander Zayas winning the vacant WBO 154-pound title. It was vacated by Fundora, by the way, and fading to black. But ESPN
Hard to figure out really whether is it really the end in your opinion of ESPN in boxing. Do you really think it is the end?
I hope it's not the end of it. I think it's the end of Top Ranks association with ESPN, but I would find it very surprising if another platform immediately goes right back to ESPN because frankly, in my opinion anyway, ESPN has sort of treated boxing as a second class sport. They would have the fight, you have a football game or a UFC event that is live ahead of it, and they either delay the start of the card on ESPN or they move it over to ESPN News or
Right.
ESPN2 or ESPNU, and you have to channel switch and everything like that,
Right.
and that makes it very confusing for boxing fans. Um, if I would like to see it, but it seems now that with the exit of ESPN, that's the exit of boxing on terrestrial television altogether, and now it becomes an all streaming sport. And yes, it's inevitable, but now that it's here, it does hit hard for a guy who became a fan of boxing just because one Saturday afternoon in 1974, a 9-year-old boy turns on the ABC affiliate, WTAE in Pittsburgh, and happens to see Howard Cosell doing the introductions for the Roberto Duran Esteban de Jesus 2 card. The fight was so good, I got hooked on boxing, and the rest is history. I don't know if I was 9 years old today, I would probably be like everybody else, a football fan, a basketball fan, baseball, maybe UFC, because they still have a
Well,
foothold on free television.
you talk about a weatherman and the perfect storm. This has all been the perfect storm for the decline and demise of boxing, getting away from free television.
Yeah.
And then that all going away. But because back in the day we had ABC, we had CBS, we had NBC. At times they all carried boxing.
Mhm.
Tuesday night fights on USA, ESPN. Then came HBO and Showtime. Man,
Yeah.
and I could throw in some that did pay-per-views. But once pay-per-view started, and then streaming later on, as that's going on, everything started to disappear. NBC, they came back to boxing, but they dumped it. CBS dumped it. ABC dumped it. And then USA went away, of course.
Yeah.
And then HBO went away, and then Showtime went away. But those were pay. You got to pay to have Showtime and HBO. And now, to have ESPN, you got to have DirecTV or Dish or something. And now it's all gone to streaming. And
Yes.
at the same time comes in, the Jake Pauls of the world and everything else, clouding, obscuring reality of what really boxing is supposed to be. And it's all over the place. So for me, the decline has been it's been a long time in coming, really. I mean, it's just been one thing and then another thing. And each time we think, well, maybe we're replacing something with something else. And you get, oh, DAZN's never going to charge or never going to do pay-per-views. And then the next thing you're paying for DAZN and the pay-per-view.
Right.
And then the piracy of pay-per-views. Everybody who's probably watching us now, you all have your cheater boxes, don't you? Or your
Mhm.
fire sticks, right? Everybody's, getting all of these, and that's causes a mess for those who are trying to make the money, and then the fighters need to make more money. It's all a vicious circle and cycle that, in my opinion, has led to the tremendous decimation of boxing in this country. And
Yes.
I always say this country because all we got to do is look across the pond and see what happened. And by the way, sitting with me were thousands at the MGM Grand, but that's because of one person named Manny Pacquiao and mostly the Filipinos who were there to support him. So we've talked long and hard, you and I have, about how all of this could be put back together, but it's now so broken.
Yeah.
It's so broken that it would take more than just one show to figure it out, because you've got, the television side that we're talking about, but then you also have the pugilistic side. For example, having young people get into the sport, men and women, because of the amateur program is crumbled in this country. Does anybody care? Does anybody want to become an Olympic champion? Or do any kids want to say, I want to hold the red, white, and blue up and be an Olympic champion like George Foreman? No,
Yeah.
those kids are probably in football, basketball, baseball, hockey, or
Soccer.
UFC, or I should say MMA.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
the only thing that we can do is tell the stories, expose the problems, try to come up with some solutions,
Yeah.
and hope that there will be a generation that will be able to enjoy it, like that kid there with Muhammad Ali. But I'm sorry to say, I'm going to start to sound like Cosell. Those were the days, my friend. I don't know if we'll ever have them again in this country.
You ran through the whole structure of
Yeah,
boxing.
sorry about that. I just, yeah.
And the common link is that boxing didn't leave those platforms because of poor ratings.
Yeah.
They left because a new generation of corporate suits moved in, and they weren't raised on boxing, and they saw boxing as an old man sport that wouldn't make money. It was the removal of boxing from free TV began the downward spiral. If you want less of something, it's simple economics. If you want less of something, make people pay for it. And yes, the fighters got richer and the promoters got richer, but it came at the expense of access.
Yeah.
And that shrinking access led to less relevance. And less relevance has left boxing as a niche sport these days.
But you got to blame boxing too, because there's a lot of greed when you start to make it. And I don't think that boxing did the best job of trying to gather sponsorship. When I was coming up in radio and even in the embryonic stages in television, even if you're great, you got to have sponsors. Sponsorship is everything. And to be honest with you, through all that great stuff, we had very few sponsors in boxing. Mm-hmm. Budweiser, yeah. And you could probably come up, back in the day, Gillette, and yes. Then Budweiser, but not, and Tecate did a great job. Yes. But boxing, if boxing had 20 great sponsors, do you think that those networks would have left boxing? I don't, because it would have had the support, and it didn't, because everybody was so focused on just me and I instead of the totality of the sport. So boxing is responsible, too, for helping to dig its own grave. In this in this country.
In this country. And I think, we are solutions-oriented, and I think that the closest thing to free network television, we're not going to have any platforms that are totally free. But as far as reach is concerned, Netflix and Amazon Prime are probably the two platforms that could generate the huge viewership numbers that free TV used to. It's not perfect, but that's where Bud and Canelo are going to be fighting on but Netflix.
It can't just be event. It has to be the sport,
yes.
Not just an event.
Correct.
And because the reason that you love it so much, and that I do, and that so many listening for, is the consistency. You get to love something when it's consistent. For example, with me, the Tuesday night fights on Miami Beach, they weren't even televised, but I would go every Tuesday and watch those fights, Chris Dundee fights, and I became a fan of the sport. And then I could watch ABC's Wide World of Sports and learn some of the stories. And then, came all the others. You have to, it has to be like a sport. It has to be consistent. It can't just be events. And it certainly can't be Jake Paul versus Mike Tyson. It's just, we're not going to fix it on this broadcast. We're probably not even going to be able to fix it. Not in this country.
Not in this country.
I'm going to continue to talk about it. One of the reasons why that I'm working on franchising in this corner. The reason I'm doing that is because I think the brand and the trademark, and more importantly, the focus and foundation of that show was you interview these fighters about their life and their career. You learn their stories, their struggles to what they become. And then I jump in the ring with them. And then you see the greatness displayed and the technical guile that it has made them so great. And I want that to continue in other parts of the world, like Mexico and Japan and the UK and Eastern Europe, just different parts where boxing does thrive. And I even want to go, I mean, you know this, I'm kind of just breaking this now to everybody.
Yeah.
I also want to do a segment where, and have in this corner have a prospects section, or where you interview prospects, and that way whomever's carrying those fights, those undercard fighters, you get to learn a little bit about them on their way up and follow
Everyone has a
them.
great story.
And that's what really has to be done. You can't just have, oh, there's Sugar Ray Leonard, oh, he's fighting Duran, but you don't know about his Olympic gold medal, and you don't know about all the fights leading up. No, there's storytelling. The reason boxing does so well on the big screen is it's such a great backdrop and metaphor for life. So
Yes.
I didn't have the ability to do it within this corner in America. I just had the legends on, and occasionally we would have a guy who was still fighting, like Floyd and like Manny, and we would tell their stories and then show what they would do in the ring. It can be done even with guys coming up, but that's what I would like to see. But I am going to franchise in this corner globally, because I think the concept works. Sit down interview, life and career, the great stories, the hardships that made these guys, and then when they step inside the squared circle, what makes them special. So there you go. We just announced something over the air that that I wasn't supposed to do, but I guess maybe it was meant to be. But where do we go from here? Are we out of time? Where are we?
Well, I don't know about time. You have the clock, but
No,
I
well,
do.
what about Claressa? I know you
Yes.
wanted to talk about Claressa Shields' fight.
Yes, she is going to be now. She is one of the most accomplishment-rich fighters in history. She stuffed a lot of achievements in her amateur career and in her professional career, and tonight she's going to fight once again in her home state of Michigan, and she will defend her undisputed heavyweight championship against reigning IBF light heavyweight titleist Lani Daniels of New Zealand. And based on what I've seen of Daniels, she's pretty good. She's quick, she's mobile, she's athletic. And because Shields has dramatically reduced her work rate since moving up in weight, she used to average around 52 punches per 2-minute round. It's now down to 30. Lani Daniels is capable of out-hustling Shields. However, no tornado warning here, okay? Daniels is going to be attempting a massive step up in quality of competition, and she's going to be doing so in her first fight outside of her native New Zealand before a very hostile crowd. She's also coming off a long layoff, I think 330 some days, and that might mess up her timing, which is very important with her game. While the conditions for an upset are present, I do think that Shields will use her experience and her technical skills to win a unanimous decision.
So maybe some wind and perhaps rain and thunder, but no tornado.
And then watch Daniel score the upset and mess me up again.
Well, I mentioned globally, there's something going on in Japan too.
Yes, there is. On July 30th, there's going to be a triple header in Yokohama, Japan. Kenshiro Teraji is going to defend his WBC and WBA flyweight titles against Ricardo Sandoval. Antonio Vargas will risk his WBA bantamweight championship against Daigo Higa. And Eric Rosa will defend his WBA light flyweight belt against Kyosuke Takami. the boxing world rolls on, even if it stinks in the United States.
Yeah, and by the way, I like to go out on a high note. Back to Fundora, I would love to see Sebastian and Gabriella, his sister, who's a world champion, and I think one of the pound for pound tops in the women's game. I would love to see those two, fight on the same card as co-main events. They're everything good about boxing, and again, we'll close it out by saying, as for Mr. Usyk, he is class personified outside the ring and inside the ring, and really look forward to sharing the ring with him someday in the future. I think that much of him, and I'll say it again. You ask me who's number one, it's not hard for me to say. As much as I love Terrence Crawford, right now, Oleksandr Usyk is the best fighter on planet Earth. Well,
Agreed.
Yeah, and we'll talk to y'all, I think, next week. I don't know I'm not exactly sure what we're going to do, but when we decide to do it, you'll know it. So long, everybody.